He's one of Hollywood's most intense actors, known for never backing down from controversy. He's punched photographers, challenged governments, and interviewed drug lords. Sean Penn has built a reputation as someone who doesn't care what anyone thinks. But there's one part of his life that even this fearless actor kept carefully guarded for years. The truth so personal, so painful, that he couldn't bring himself to speak about it publicly until recently. What Sean Penn finally revealed changes everything we thought we knew about the man behind the headline. This isn't about his famous feuds or his tumultuous relationships with some of Hollywood's biggest stars. This is about something deeper: a childhood marked by complexity, a father's shadow he could never escape, a battle with his own demons that nearly destroyed him, and the moments of vulnerability that he hid behind anger and aggression for decades. Today, we're uncovering the truth that Sean Penn kept buried beneath layers of tough guy persona and public bravado. The real story involves family secrets, personal struggles with addiction and rage, the weight of living up to an impossible legacy, and ultimately, a journey toward understanding himself that took half a lifetime to begin. This is the story Sean Penn never wanted to tell. Until now, to understand Sean Penn, you have to understand where he came from. Born in 1960 in Santa Monica, California. Sean Justin Penn wasn't just any kid growing up in Southern California. He was born into Hollywood royalty. His father, Leo Penn, was an accomplished television director who worked on everything from Bonanza to Little House on the Prairie. His mother, Eileen Ryan, was a respected actress. His older brother, Chris Penn, would also become an actor. But here's what Sean rarely discussed for decades. His childhood wasn't the privileged Hollywood dream it appeared to be. His father, Leo Penn, had been blacklisted during the McCarthy era in the 1950s for allegedly having communist sympathies. Though Leo eventually rebuilt his career, the experience left deep scars on the family. There was always an undercurrent of political awareness, of standing up against injustice, of fighting back against systems of power. Sean has described his father as both brilliant and difficult, a man who demanded excellence and didn't tolerate weakness. Leo Penn had strong opinions about art, politics, and integrity, and he expected his sons to live up to those standards. For young Sean, this created an impossible dynamic. How do you rebel against a father who's already a rebel? How do you forge your own identity when your dad is the very definition of principled defiance? What Sean has revealed in recent years is that his relationship with his father was complicated by unspoken expectations and emotional distance. Leo Penn wasn't abusive, but he wasn't warm either. He was a man of his generation, tough, stoic, and not particularly expressive with his emotions. Sean learned early that showing vulnerability was weakness, that real men fought back, and that the world was a harsh place where you had to be tougher than everyone else. This created a young man with enormous talent, burning ambition, and absolutely no idea how to process his emotions in healthy ways. Sean threw himself into acting with an intensity that bordered on obsessive. He wasn't just playing characters, he was using them to express everything he couldn't say in his real life. By his late teens, Sean was already showing the signs of the man he'd become: fiercely talented, incredibly intense, quick to anger, and absolutely uncompromising in his artistic vision. But beneath all that aggression was something he couldn't acknowledge: a deep insecurity about whether he'd ever be good enough, whether he'd ever escape his father's shadow, whether he deserved the success that seemed to come his way. The 1980s marked Sean Penn's explosive arrival in Hollywood. He burst onto the scene with roles in Fast Times at Ridgemont High, then quickly established himself as a serious actor, with performances in films like Bad Boys and The Falcon and The Hustler. But it was his personal life that kept him in the headlines, and not in good ways. In 1985, Sean married pop superstar Madonna in what seemed like a union of two massive egos and talents. What followed was one of Hollywood's most volatile and publicized marriages. The tabloids had a field day with their relationship: Sean's jealousy, his violent outbursts toward photographers, his drinking, and the constant drama that surrounded the couple. Sean Penn became infamous for his aggression toward the paparazzi. He assaulted photographers multiple times, once even being sentenced to jail time for punching an extra on a film set. The media painted him as an unhinged hothead, someone whose talent was being overshadowed by his inability to control his temper. But what? Sean has finally opened up about is what was really happening during those years. He wasn't just an angry young actor lashing out for no reason, he was drowning. The pressure of sudden fame, the intensity of his marriage to one of the world's most famous women, the constant invasion of privacy, and his own unaddressed emotional issues were creating a perfect storm. Sean has admitted in recent interviews that he was drinking heavily during this period. He was using alcohol to numb feelings he didn't know how to process. The rage that exploded toward photographers wasn't really about Demit, it was about feeling out of control in his own life, about the childhood issues he'd never dealt with, about the pressure to be perfect that his father had instilled in him. His marriage to Madonna ended in 1989, and while both have since spoken respectfully about each other, it's clear the relationship was damaged by Sean's inability to handle his own emotions. Madonna needed to be free to be the star she was becoming. Sean needed someone to help him feel grounded in a world that felt increasingly chaotic. The 1990s brought some of Sean's best work. Dead Man Walking. She's so lovely, sweet, and low-down, but personally, he was still struggling. He married actress Robin Wright in 1996, and they had 2 children together. To the outside world, it seemed like Sean had finally found stability, but the pattern of intensity, control issues, and emotional unavailability continued beneath the surface. Here's where Sean Penn's story gets really interesting, where he's been most honest in recent years. For decades, people focused on his anger issues, his fights with photographers, his volatile relationships. But what they missed was the underlying addiction that was driving much of this behavior. Sean Penn wasn't just occasionally drinking too much, he was using alcohol as medication for deeper psychological issues. In interviews over the past several years, he's acknowledged that he was functionally alcoholic for long stretches of his career. He would drink to deal with stress, to quiet the constant noise in his head. To escape the pressure of being Sean Penn, what's remarkable is how long he hid this. He continued to deliver incredible performances while dealing with substance abuse issues. Films like Mystic River and Milk, both of which won him Academy Awards, were created during periods when he was still struggling with his relationship with alcohol. But the addiction went beyond just drinking. Sean has also discussed his addiction to cigarette smoking multiple packs a day for decades and more, metaphorically. His addiction to intensity itself. He couldn't do anything halfway, whether it was acting, activism, relationships, or self-destruction. Sean Penn went all in. The turning point came gradually, rather than in one dramatic moment. His children were growing up watching their father's behavior. His marriage to Robin Wright was falling apart, with the couple separating and reconciling multiple times. Before finally divorcing in 2010, Sean was getting older, and the lifestyle that a young man can sometimes survive becomes increasingly dangerous as you age. What Sean has revealed is that recognizing his addiction wasn't about hitting rock bottom in some dramatic fashion. It was about the slow, painful realization that the way he was living wasn't sustainable. He was exhausted from being angry all the time. He was tired of waking up feeling terrible, and he was scared that he was becoming the kind of distant, emotionally unavailable father that his own dad had been. The process of getting sober wasn't a single decision, but a series of choices made over several years. Sean has been characteristically honest about the fact that it wasn't easy and that he still struggles sometimes. But he's also clear that stepping away from alcohol fundamentally changed his life and his work. While the tabloids were focused on Sean Penn, the hothead, something else was happening that revealed a completely different side of the man. After the 2010 earthquake in Haiti, Sean Penn did something that shocked many people. He didn't just donate money or make a public statement. He went to Haiti and stayed there. Penn founded the JP Haitian Relief Organization and spent months living in Haiti, coordinating relief efforts, building camps, and working directly with displaced people. This wasn't a publicity stunt or a brief celebrity. Visit Sean Penn committed years of his life to humanitarian work in one of the world's most challenging environments. What he's revealed about this period is profound. Haiti gave him something he desperately needed: purpose beyond himself. For someone who'd spent decades trapped in his own ego, his own anger, and his own problems, helping people who'd lost everything provided perspective and meaning. The work in Haiti was grueling and often thankless. Sean dealt with corrupt officials, inadequate resources, and the overwhelming scale of human suffering. but it also connected him to something larger than his own fame and problems. In helping others, he began to heal himself. This pattern continued with other causes. He's been involved with disaster relief in New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina, advocacy for various political causes, and even controversial trips to meet with figures like Venezuelan President Hugo Chavez and Mexican drug lord Joaquin El Chapo Guzman. While some of these actions attracted criticism, they showed a man genuinely trying to use his platform for something beyond entertainment. What Sean has explained is that activism and humanitarian work aren't separate from his acting, they're all part of the same drive. He has a compulsive need to engage with the world at the deepest level possible. Whether that's inhabiting a character completely or addressing real-world injustice, the intensity that once manifested as rage and destruction found a more constructive outlet. His colleagues in Haiti and other humanitarian workers have described it different. Sean Penn than the Hollywood hellraiser, who could be humble, who listened, who worked alongside others without needing to be the center of attention. In recent years, Sean Penn has done something that doesn't come easily to him. He's looked backward and taken honest inventory of his life. In interviews, in his novel Bob Honey, Who Just Do Stuff, and in various public appearances, he's opened up about regrets, mistakes, and the long journey toward understanding himself. One of the most significant revelations has been about his relationships with women. Sean has acknowledged that his behavior in his marriages to Madonna and Robin Wright was often controlling and emotionally immature. He's talked about how the jealousy and possessiveness that characterized those relationships came from his own insecurities, not from anything his partners did wrong. He's also been remarkably honest about his failings as a father. His children Dylan and Hopper Penn from his marriage to Robin Wright have had to grow up with a famous, intense, often absent father. Sean has discussed the guilt he feels about times when his work, his activism, or his personal issues took priority over being present for his kids. His relationship with his late father, Leo Penn, who died in 1998, has been another area of reflection. Sean has talked about understanding his father better, now recognizing that Leo was dealing with his own trauma from the blacklist era, his own struggles to maintain dignity and earn a living in a hostile environment. The emotional distance that hurt young Sean was likely Leo's way of protecting himself and his family. Sean's brother Chris Penn died in 2006 from heart disease related to his own substance abuse issues. This loss hit Sean particularly hard, forcing him to confront how addiction ran in his family and how the coping mechanisms they'd all learned or failed to learn had serious consequences. What emerges from Sean's recent honesty is a portrait of someone trying to make sense of a complicated life. He's not making excuses for his behavior, but he's providing context. He's acknowledging harm, while also recognizing that he was often operating from a place of pain and confusion himself. So who is Sean Penn today? In his 60s, after years of turmoil, growth, and he's still acting and arguably doing some of the best work of his career. Recent performances show an actor who's more comfortable with vulnerability, who doesn't need to prove his toughness in every role. There's a wisdom and weariness in his recent work that only comes from having lived a full, difficult life. He's apparently maintained his sobriety and found healthier ways to channel his intensity. He's still politically active and outspoken, recently making headlines for his work related to the conflict in Ukraine, but the rage that once defined him seems to have evolved into something more constructive. His relationships with his children appear to have improved as they've all gotten older. Both Dylan and Hopper have pursued their own paths in entertainment, and Sean has spoken proudly of them in interviews. While acknowledging he could have been a better father when they were young, he's also found love again, though he's learned to keep his personal life more private. After high-profile relationships and marriages that played out in tabloids, Sean seems to have found a balance between being a public figure and maintaining personal boundaries. What's most striking about Sean Penn now is his willingness to be honest about his imperfections. The young man who fought photographers and lashed out at anyone who questioned him has become someone who can admit mistakes, express regret, and acknowledge ongoing struggles. He's talked about aging as both a challenge and a relief, challenging because the intensity that defined him becomes harder to sustain, but a relief because he no longer feels the need to prove himself in the same ways dot the truth that Sean Penn hid for years. Wasn't one dramatic secret hit, was a collection of struggles that he kept, buried beneath anger, intensity, and a carefully constructed tough guy persona. The addiction, the emotional wounds from childhood, the insecurity beneath the arrogance, the pain he caused people he loved, and the long journey toward self-understanding. What makes his story compelling isn't the scandal or the drama, it's the humanity of it. Here's someone who had every advantage: talent, intelligence, opportunity, and success. But he still struggled. He still made terrible choices. He still hurt people and hurt himself. And slowly, painfully, he worked toward becoming a better version of himself. Sean Penn's willingness to finally speak openly about these issues, the addiction, the rage, the regrets, serves a purpose beyond his own redemption. It reminds us that success and talent don't protect you from yourself. It shows that change is possible even after decades of destructive patterns. And it demonstrates that acknowledging your flaws isn't weakness, it's the beginning of actual strength at over 60 years old. Sean Penn is still intense, still passionate, still complicated, but he's also more self-aware, more honest, and seemingly more at peace with who he is. The truth he hid for years is now out in the open. Not because he was exposed, but because he chose to share it. And maybe that's the real transformation. From a man who fought desperately to control how the world saw him to someone who can be honest about his struggles and trust that his humanity, with all its imperfections, is enough. The Sean Penn of today wouldn't punch the photographer. He might actually talk to him instead. And that growth, however long it took to achieve, is worth celebrating.